hopefully more people will join us as we get into the meeting. I'm Emily Figdor. I am the District 2 School Board member, and I'm co-chair of this committee. This is the joint meeting of the District Advisory Building Committee and the Building Level Advisory Committee. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. And we have a little bit of a different setup this meeting because Mark and Lisa from Harriman are unable to join us tonight. So we have two of our project managers from the Harriman team who are going to help walk us through tonight's presentation. I'm going to leave the approval of the minutes from actually two of our past meetings until the end of the meeting. So hopefully we will have a quorum at that point. And I want to mention that tonight's meeting is really the goal of it is to update everyone on the two committees about the status of the two projects and to be able to discuss any issues that committee members are grappling with and talk about what's to come next. We don't actually have any agenda action items for tonight. So it's an informational meeting and an opportunity to discuss. So, and I have one, before I hand it over to Tony and Steve, I want to make sure that everyone has gotten the opportunity to meet Sarah Warren, who has just joined us. Sarah is the district's new COO, and so is overseeing our facilities team as part of her responsibilities, and she's already jumped in to the BFOF projects with 2 feet, and we are so happy to have her as part of this team, and she will be doing a lot, I know, to get us over the finish line. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
And actually, since Sarah is new to us tonight, let's go through and do introductions. So she starts to have a sense of who's on these two committees. So if you can say your name, which committee you're on, and what your connection to the BFOF projects are, or something about kind of your history with the projects, just to provide Sarah with some context. And maybe I'm going to, I see Abby. So maybe I'll start with Abby Fuller. And then Abby,
Hi.
if you can just popcorn it to someone else on the call, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Abby Fuller. I'm on the District Advisory Board Committee. Not sure what else to say. I'm a parent of 2 kids. It was 3, now 2 kids in the district.
I'll say that Abby has been a part of these projects from the beginning. She helped go door to door to raise awareness about the need to renovate these schools back many years ago.
And I'll toss it to Ben.
Thanks. Hi, this is Ben Grant. I'm an at-large member of the school board. I'm on the DABC. I have a daughter in 9th grade at Portland High School and a daughter in 5th grade at Ocean Ave. And I've come into this committee, towards the latter parts of the project. So, definitely don't have the deep history that Abby and Emily and others do. I think Aura's on, so I'll pass it off to her. Yep, there you are.
Thanks. Hi, Sarah. I'm Aura Russell-Better, District 4 board member, and got the pleasure to meet you after a meeting recently, so welcome. I have a 4th grader at Presumpscot and an 8th grader at Lyman Moore, and have really just had the thrill of getting to see the projects and get to see with my older child, who's not at Presumpscot anymore, but she was there during the project, to have my younger child get to actually be part of the school community at its completion is really exciting. So so glad that you're jumping in and will, as Emily said, get to see these projects to their ending. So thanks. Oh, and I'll say, how about to Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jess Marino. I'm a DABC member. Been involved as a parent for a very long time. My oldest is a 2022 Deering graduate, and she was in second grade when I went to my first "We Need to Renovate the Schools" meeting. I'm also an employee at Presumpscot School for the past 5 years and get to work in one of the new renovated spaces. So I'm like a full circle committee member, I think. I'll pass it to Emily Waugh.
Sure, I'm Emily Waugh with Harriman. And maybe we'll introduce the other two Harriman folks. Steve, do you want to go?
Yep, Stephen Frazier. I'm an architect, and I've been focusing mostly on Reiki School. And there's Tony Roy.
Good evening. I'm Tony Roy. I'm a project manager on the Presumpscot project. Let me pass it on to Dave Lewis.
Hi, yeah, Dave Lewis, excuse me. The owner's representative on these projects, and something.
All right. I already spent lots of time with you,
Yeah.
Dave. You should get water or whatever.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I did. And I don't have a hard hat on this time.
But I'm
not
waiting
sure
for
else
my
to
hard
pass.
hat.
How about Jeremy, who just joined?
Yes. Are we just announcing ourselves? I'm sorry. I was late. Okay, so I'm Jeremy Dean. I'm on the building level advisory committee, which I think is kind of merged now into the DBAC, although not officially. So anyway, I'm here.
Charlie and Angie, can you introduce yourselves as well?
Of course. Yeah. Charlie Merengi. Good evening, everyone. One of the administrators at Reiki. Just very excited to be nearing the end of our construction process. Pass it off to Angie.
Hi, Angie Taylor, principal of Presumpscot.
Excellent. So thank you so much. Camera. One of our current stars, please.
Tamara Sweeney, Director of Facilities for Portland Public Schools.
Thank you, Tamara. My Zoom boxes were shifting too fast. I had you there for a second. All right. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to do introductions as Sarah joins our team. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to the Harriman team to walk us through tonight's slides, and realizing that that Mark and Lisa aren't with us tonight, we can tag team as much as needed with the PPS staff and board jumping in as well. So Harriman team, take it away.
Okay, can you all see that in full screen now?
We can, Emily. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
If you could bring it to the next slide. So we've done the welcome. We'll give you a construction update. I know personally Reiki is nearing completion. We'll go through contingency. I assume with Dave Lewis will help on that piece. FF, the furniture pieces, the next steps moving forward. And I think we're going to skip the approval of the meeting minutes. Next slide, Emily.
I don't know. Steve, do you want to speak to this, or Dave Lewis might be able to?
Yeah, do you want to take
I'll jump in on this one. It's pretty self-explanatory, where Longfellow is right now. They're finishing up some roof edge detail work around the elevator. The building has been moved into, and students are enjoying it. I think they're enjoying it. A little bit of exterior site work being completed, and they are currently scheduled for completion of the site work by the end of October. So we're at a point now where we're counting the days. And they've been whittling away at completing interior punch list work as time allows after classes are out.
And there had been a request to kind of include some of the punch list items, so we've added those in. This is sort of the latest and greatest. It's a lot to go through. I don't know if you necessarily want to read through each item. I don't know, Emily, is that sort of what the punch list?
I think just so folks, I'm putting the link to the slides in the chat again. So this is pretty hard to read, but if you want to dig in on what's on the punch list right now, it might be easiest to actually go to the slides yourself rather than through Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you the quick story on punch list work is it's mostly minor interior paint touch-ups, patching and filling, some dings in drywall, touch-up paint, some cleaning. And portions of Reiki, Steve can speak to this in more detail when we get to Reiki, similar
Dave, I think we're losing you a little bit. I don't know if there's a way to secure your connection.
There is not.
Okay, well, we will manage through it.
Let me.
So we have some pictures of Longfellow. Are there any questions on the status of Longfellow? Jessica.
Emily, is this a good time for me to ask my question about the window situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Okay. So I know Mark and Lisa are not here, and they this is definitely something I wanted to communicate to them. But my understanding is that the pre-K windows at Longfellow, are they similar, Dave, to the pre-K and kindergarten windows at Presumpscott, that they are fixed and don't open?
Correct. They are fixed windows. They don't open.
So I know that's been a real struggle for us at Presumpscott with the start of this school year. It's been incredibly, incredibly warm in those classrooms. We are not getting the ventilation that we had hoped to get. If there is any ventilation, it just seems to be bringing in hot, humid air. It was well over 90 degrees in those classrooms the first week of school.
Yeah.
It's just I brought it up last spring. I was told, that it wasn't really a problem, and it really is a problem for us to have, as a community member who has invested in this, and it's hard for staff and students in those rooms. And I really, before the window closes on all these projects, so I heard the same thing from teachers at Longfellow who were in the pre-K room, like really, really struggling. And our climate is not going to get any cooler. So I do think we need to talk about some kind of alternative or solution or retrofitting windows or something before the window closes on being able to work on this.
Yep. Well, two things to keep in mind at Longfellow is cooling / air conditioning was not part of the original design, and the air circulation in these rooms at Longfellow it's recirculating outside air. So it's fresh, filtered outside air. So whatever it is outside, it's going to be like that inside. That said, we have asked Blaine Casey to price adding cooling to the HVAC unit that serves the pre-K / K area at Longfellow. So that area had been identified as being particularly problematic. And when we get that price, we will be able to evaluate it within the budget of the project.
So is that something that's going to happen at Presumpscott too, where there are 4 classrooms that have that same issue?
I am not aware of that. I don't know.
Tony, are you aware of what's going on at Presumpscot?
What I've heard at Presumpscot is that there was a airflow question in the pre-K classroom, and I know Great Falls has been examining that with the HVAC contractor to make sure that the flows are being adjusted if necessary. I haven't heard a discussion about possible AC in there yet.
No, not yet.
I see Angie's hand is up. Angie, go ahead, please.
It's in all 4 rooms. And I do know, like I've been in contact with Quentin at Great Falls, and he's done his test of climbing up the ladder and putting a paper up there to see if there's an airflow, and the airflow is so light, it barely moves the paper, but there is airflow. But my understanding is, yeah, it's supposed to bring in that cool air, and we've had some cool nights, and it's not bringing in cool air at all. You go in there about like halfway through the day, and it feels unhealthy to me because it doesn't feel like it's circulating. I thought he reached out to the engineers who said that it was designed the way it is right now. So I would like, I do think we need to think about that. I don't know that it needs necessarily air conditioning, but one of the things Jess brought out, is it possible to retrofit have a window that opens, one window in each of those rooms, so that some air can circulate?
Can anyone explain why we put in windows that don't open in those pre-K rooms?
I think we need Mark and Lisa on that. I can't speak to that. Can you, Steve?
No, I don't
Angie,
know
aren't they
anything.
also really low, some of the windows in the pre-K kindergarten? I thought that was something about, that they're like at the kid level.
There's one.
I'm just, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there is at least one window in each of the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms that could have been an open window. And like Jess was saying, in her office space, which has a window that just barely opens, when she can put a fan in there, it makes a huge difference. And so with the teachers, what they're doing is they're putting a fan, but it's just like circulating that hot air. And I don't come, me, I always try to stick to the positive. And like, it's hard. It doesn't feel good in there. I just need to say out loud.
Okay. I see Nicole. Let's hear what Nicole has to say. Nicole, please go ahead.
Sorry, I was on a different system before, but here. So I agree, it's the pre-K classroom, and the fans do help. I definitely don't think we need necessarily air conditioning. I think what concerns me more, so it's a pre-K classroom, and it's several lower level classrooms, 3 others, and they don't open. And with the Portland Police Department coming in, they requested to have hammers and things to open the windows. So I felt like it was a safety concern as well, that people would feel a lot better, especially with a pre-K classroom having one window that was openable instead of having to have a hammer that was hidden in a corner. So it's a double concern to me, and it's in our building, it's 4 classrooms. And we do not need the air conditioning. Honestly, if we could just open the window, it would be great.
With the storefront systems, especially if they're divided, like on the picture onto the left into smaller pieces, it should be fairly easy to put in an operable awning type window into one of those smaller openings. You take the glass out and the window would fit into that framed opening and could be operable. Like at Reiki, though, we have a lot of casement windows at Reiki that were existing, and we've put limiters on those windows so they don't open up very much, so that people don't get in and kids won't get out. So usually you limit it so they'll open up about 4 inches. Has that been an issue at Reiki, Charlie, with the windows not opening fully like they used to?
I think we're in good shape with those limiters.
Okay.
Okay. Angie, I see your hand is still up. Is that intentional?
That is not intentional.
Okay.
There we go.
Raise it, Lila? There's 4. Your hand just wants to go up, Angie. My understanding is there's 4 classrooms at Longfellow and 4 classrooms at Presumpscot that are currently experiencing this challenge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's
Sounds like it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about the concern at Presumscott until tonight, so we'll follow up with Mark and Lisa tomorrow.
Okay.
Because it sounds like it's more a global design issue that they'll need to be brought up to speed on the concerns, the suggestions, and take it from there.
Yeah, and I would
Thank you.
I would
absolutely.
I would add, Dave, that if the design was to handle the airflow fully mechanically, I'd have to question why there's so little air coming through the system. So I may want to start with looking at the system further, making sure there's proper airflow. And then option A or B would be windows or adding air conditioning to the system.
Yeah, I know anecdotally, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, there was a hot stretch at Longfellow, and it turns out that for whatever reason, the rooftop unit had been shut off, so it actually wasn't circulating the fresh outside air. So that just exacerbated whatever was happening.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Message heard.
Thank you, everyone. We will follow up on this for sure. And I want to thank Jess Marino for bringing this to everyone's attention.
Yep, absolutely.
Really appreciate that. And as we're finishing these projects, that's exactly what we need to hear. And this is the time to try and get all these issues resolved. So thank you, Jess. Sarah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly address, because I've heard this concern a few times, and I just think it's important that we acknowledge we're hearing it. I think there's a little bit of anxiety and tension being created as we try to get stronger in our preparation and preparedness for emergency response. And as folks experience the ALICE training and whatnot, it's sort of, I think, creating a little bit of tension around the way that some of the more recent buildings are designed with the windows that don't open, right? That's part of what I was hearing Nicole saying, is that worry about safety. So I just want to, acknowledge that and make sure that we're hearing it. I don't think we're going to redesign everything. And I heard Steve saying at least some of those windows, there's some room there to do some work. So we could at least replace one maybe. But I think, we need a way to make sure that we're being responsive to that. And if it is, maybe there's one window that we're changing and we are being careful that they have the right hammer to break the other windows or whatever, that makes people feel heard and like they're safe in, the event of an emergency. Our, sort of challenge on Monday at Casco Bay has probably only heightened that anxiety for folks. So I just want to be really mindful, that we're hearing that and being responsive to it, and maybe taking it into account when we design future buildings. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, I think we can, Angie, I'm assuming your hand is not really up. Please just pipe in if it is.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here we go.
It's no worries.
There we go. There we go.
So let's go forward with the slide presentation.
We're done here. Emily, you can.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if you were going to speak to the photos at all, or.
Yeah, I think Longfellow, unless anyone's. Oh wait, there are some text on the side underneath everyone's faces.
Yeah, they're sort of captions.
Yeah,
unless anyone has any questions.
I think the photos have been up long enough, and there are captions that. I don't.
Right.
Yeah. I hope. Yeah. I don't feel compelled to read the captions.
Okay. So. Reiki was there with Dave last Wednesday, I believe. The roof plaza, re-roofing of the roof plaza, the storefront. is almost done. There was still some flashing to tie in, caulking around the new windows. There's a metal railing that goes on the front that may go on towards the end of the project. And there's also going to be some cleaning up of that wall, that concrete wall that was on either side of the ramp portion that remained that was taken off. But I believe with all that rain that we had, the roof plaza finally didn't leak for the first time in a while. So it's good to see that piece wrapping up. Below the roof plaza, where the old ramp connected in above the previous main entrance, there's a little bit of deterioration of the concrete of the waffle slab. And we've known about this for a while, and we're just getting into tackling a solution to it because we couldn't really see the extent of it until we got the remnants of the old ramp taken off. If people aren't aware, there used to be ramps that went from Brackett Street up to the roof deck and then down the other side down to Clark Street. And there was one piece of that remaining. So that ramp got taken off probably 2 months ago, and the deterioration of the concrete was a little bit worse than we'd seen before. And we're working with Hardy Pond Construction and right now KIS, which is Knowles Industrial Services, on getting a design and pricing to do those repairs. We're also working on, I talked with Tamara before this, we're working on just a small proposal increase for our services for that design work because it was outside of the scope. Talking with Hardy Pond, they're hoping to get this work done sometime probably around Christmas vacation time when the kids are out of the school. So it'll be wrapped up before the end of the year. We are going to put some temporary shoring up under that portion of the slab. Not that we're afraid that it's going to fall down at this point, but we're going to need the shoring anyway when we tear off all the bad concrete and expose the rebar for the repair. So part of the price will be shoring up that concrete before the repairs are done. Are there any questions on that piece of it? Okay. So most of the project is done at this point. Hardy Pond just updated me today with a current list, punch list items. I'm assuming Tamara and the rest of the team got that. So they're trying to do a lot of that remaining work after school, after the kids are out of the building. And then the remaining portions of the project right now are finishing the art and music rooms, which are being done right now. Those little in-between pieces, the last pieces on the roof plaza. And then Daphne at Hardy Pond let me know this morning that the site work mostly on the Brackett Street side will start in October sometime, early October. So there's some new paving, sidewalks, some landscaping, things like that on that side of the building before they can open up the new main entrance. I don't know, Charlie or David, if you have anything else to add. Oh, there's some other things here. Miscellaneous interior items. Yeah, there's in the high ceiling on the library, there are some acoustical clouds that hang down and kind of make it look like tree leaves, and some rubber flooring base that's going in. I know there's some other drywall repairs around those wood caps that's been concerning to Charlie. That's on the to-do list. And then the site work that we mentioned already.
Sarah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I know that folks are on this because I saw emails happening, but I just want to make sure that everybody's like pushing on it because it is important for our staff, just for working purposes, but for safety purposes as well. That we're moving on correcting the issues that have remained around phones in rooms. So I know it's moving, but I just want to make sure that folks that are kind of paying attention day to day are helping us push that because there were some issues I think with the subcontractor that was doing that piece of the work. So we've had our IT guy in there, and the problems that are there are not actually things that the school system can do until they fix what they didn't do. So
Hardy Pond, Daphne let me know today that Merchant was working on that piece of it today. So I can get an update from her tomorrow on that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, anything else that you would like to add on the status at Reiki?
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, just really excited that, you know, we've got a lot of the big work done. I think just as a, excuse me, we're in an open house right now. You want to hear it? Super cute.
I missed that scavenger hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I didn't want to mute that in the end. I was like, which that's the business of schools right there. It's just a point, you know, a process point, which is, as Steve brought up, that shoring work on the old bracket entrance where we're needing to work on that concrete. You know, as Steve said, you know, there are going to be some pricing outside of the project, and that will, you know, there'll be some additional funds needed for that. My feeling is that work and the plaza roof reconstruction should have been in the initial scope, and I don't want to air that publicly. It should never have been something that needed to be pushed harder on the tail end of our project. And so I'm so grateful for the expertise and that's being solved. I'm leery about, you know, how much more money that will cost and the domino effect into our FFE budget, you know. So, you know, we have furniture that's 40 years old, and I want to advocate at least 40. I want to advocate that we are careful that we don't, because of these additional, the additional need of this work, that we're not taking away new furniture away from kids.
Thank you so much for that, Charlie. And I'm well aware of that tension and am very committed to ensuring that we're not further eroding the FFE budget and that all of the schools get the furniture they need. So we will work hard to make that the outcome. All right. Anything else on Reiki? And we will look at those FFE and contingency budgets shortly.
There's a few pictures on the left of this photo where the red tape is. That's where the spalling concrete is. So there's about an inch and a half of concrete below the rebar that was loose. They've taken up all the loose material now and covered it up with tape to keep any dust from coming down. And they've got tape down below to keep people away from the door. But that's the area where the shoring, and the shoring will look kind of like staging, probably will go under that concrete until the repair is made. And part of the repair is the storefront in that area needs to come out, and the middle portion of it, which used to be in the vestibule, was only single thick glass. So the right thing to do is going to be to replace that whole area of storefront with new, thermally broken, energy efficient glass.
Steve, I actually have a question. Since we're anticipating needing to do that work, yeah, do the doors still need to be there for to have another method of egress, or?
Yes, we need them for egress from that assembly area. And I think it also provides access to what's going to become a small playground out in that area.
That's right. It's been a long time since I looked at those plans. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the top right is the roof plaza with the new roof almost complete, and all the glazing is new and complete up there with more energy efficient glass, which should really cut down on the solar heat gain up there. And below is, I think it's the art room that was taken last week. So at this point, have you been there, Dave, to give us an update on what it looks like this week?
No, I'm going there tomorrow.
Okay. But they probably have ceiling grid started up there, because I think they have their above ceiling inspections done. So they're in the final phase of finishes. And I know overall they've committed to getting this done, minus probably the concrete repair and some of the site work. I think they've committed they'll be out of the school, I think, by Thanksgiving, but honestly, I think they'll be done before then. So I think that's all we have on Reiki.
Okay, Presumpscott. So we have a couple issues going on there. We're very close to being finished there, but we do have some issues with the rubber flooring in the addition. In fact, we've submitted a letter rejecting the installation. We've been doing a lot of testing all summer to try and find out exactly what happened and how to fix it. So we did a lot of test samples in the cafeteria, and we have a sizable 8x8 patch in there right now of a green color that represents what we think will probably be the solution for the replacement of those floor tiles. But in the meantime, since we issued the rejection letter, the flooring contractor hired a sort of industry guru to come out and examine the situation. And as part of that, he's going to send, or has sent, rubber tile samples of the tile that's in the addition, as well as a sample of the adhesive for testing to see if there's something going on with the flooring. For instance, would it be a unstable material that there's an issue in manufacturing that we can determine, or is there an issue with the adhesive? In the process of identifying what the problem is, we tried many other different adhesives with the same tile, and we're able to find a solution there that we think will work. But as far as scheduling the replacement, we're going to wait until we get the lab reports back and a assessment by this consultant that Caposa has hired. So in addition to that, we want to look at the tile in the existing building as well. I should go back. The rear addition, the issue that we're having is the tile is actually lifting, so it's not achieving a proper bond to the floor. So prior to school coming in, the contractor went in and made sure there were no trip hazards and corrected any areas that there were concerns with. There's areas that it's still slightly peaking, but in the existing building, it was a different adhesive in that area because it was an existing building, had a different slab makeup, didn't have a vapor barrier there. So we used a sort of higher end adhesive there. And in that area, the tiles have laid flat much better. But I've asked them to bring in the manufacturer's technical rep to go out there and test the bond in the existing building as well to make sure it achieves a full warranty. And until that time, we haven't, sort of made a full decision on whether that flooring will be replaced also. I'm leaning towards not replacing that. I think it's going to be fine. But the addition is definitely going to be replaced. So is there any questions on that?
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Was it me? I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tony, I was there yesterday with Sarah walking, and there was definitely some more trip hazards that we need to address.
Okay.
Inside the cafeteria area.
Okay.
And maybe even in the hallway of the pre-KK area.
Okay. I will get a hold of Great Falls and let them know that this needs to be handled immediately.
Angie and then Aura.
I did not mean to raise my hand. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's just stayed up. It doesn't want to go away. Oh. So I can go. Okay. Thanks for the explanation of that. I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm definitely concerned about the trip hazard. I guess I'm just wondering time frame. I was thinking more long-term use. My first question was just, safety of it if it is starting to the pieces are starting, you are seeing that I forgot what the word you use with buckle or, shift and have those trip hazards, but also the time frame of, I know you've had communication with multiple people coming out to look at it. I guess I'm just concerned about it worsening, or I don't know the other issues that might be involved besides that part about, the adhesive not working. So I guess I just would love to know any other anticipation of time frame for resolution, and I appreciate the longer term plan of getting it resolved, but just in the short term, kind of how to resolve those concerns.
Well, I think Great Falls and Kaposa are going to be on a on-call basis, dealing with any issues where the tile's lifting and causing a trip hazard, and they'll have to get out there immediately, and they're aware of that. So as soon as we hear it, I was on the phone with Darren from Great Falls just before this meeting, so they're very eager to get this fixed. As far as a time frame, we've thrown around some ideas, but until we know exactly what we're dealing with and how we're going to fix it, I don't think they can put a time frame to it. But I would imagine they're probably going to, do a replacement like next summer. So you'd have a whole year of wearing on that floor, and then it would be fully replaced. So I think that's what will happen. There's a possibility that maybe on one of the longer school vacations, they could, replace a whole area where there's like less furniture and such to move, like the cafeteria or something like that. But I think it's all going to depend on, what our, marching orders are going forward to get this done right. So hope that answered your question.
Tamara, please go ahead.
So, Tony, I did notice that the green tile that was done, it does look better, and it does seem to be holding up at this point. So,
yeah, that was our hope. We asked them to do an 8x8 sample, so you'd really have a lot of joints, on all sides to watch and see how they handle, foot traffic and chairs and tables moving across them. So they agreed to do that, and they're very agreeable to really any suggestions we have to try and get this done. So I think bringing in this industry expert, he's basically an industry concrete and flooring expert, and he's determined that sending the tile and the adhesive to a lab that he's very familiar with that does this kind of testing all the time is the best course of action. And once we have that information, we can form our next steps. So I will say that the remaining punch list items in Presumpscot are all floor related. So we're holding on those punch list items until we have a good plan, because I don't want to, do work, bother people and then have to come back and do it again. So I know there's some areas in the existing building where there's some tile lines that don't line up, and that's all going to be fixed. But I want to make sure that flooring in, especially the existing building, isn't all going to be removed. There's no sense in fixing little areas of misalignment if it's all coming out. So,
Tony, when you say they're sending concrete samples, what does that involve?
Not concrete samples. It's actually the rubber tile. They took a one of the tile that's been installed, one of the extra from attic stock, and sent that as well as a sample of the adhesive. Okay. So they're basically looking to see if there's anything manufacturing done in manufacturing with the tile that causes it not to, hold its shape and cause sort of delamination. And with the adhesive, they want to just make sure that the adhesive isn't somehow acting with the tile to cause this delamination. So the lab is the best place to find this out. So.
Yeah, they're looking to see if there's some chemical reaction between anything off-gassing from the tile itself interacting with the adhesive. So he sent, as Tony said, he took a sample of the tile, scraped adhesive off of the slab, and I believe got a sample of adhesive also directly from the bucket or one of the buckets at Kaposa.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and he did say it would take a couple of weeks for the lab results to come back. So that is gone. As far as I know, it's gone to the lab, but so we're sort of in a holding pattern until we start to get that information back. But Great Falls isn't going anywhere.
And we definitely want to hear about any issues where there's tripping hazards, and
yes,
we'll get
absolutely.
right on that. So very good to know. Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead, Aura, please.
Thanks. This isn't related to this issue, but I think you're wrapping up Presumpscot. Is that right?
I'm going to some site items next.
Why don't you continue then, and I'll see if you answer the question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Very good. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'll go to the site next. The work going on the site right now is basically to complete the grass in the field work. We have some issues out at the field that we're addressing. There's been some unlevelness in the play surface that we want to get leveled out. And I know Great Falls and Woods excavation has been out there addressing that, planting new seed, weeding, and in an effort to make sure that all of the soil out there is right, we've actually sent a sample to the laboratory for examination to make sure it meets our spec. They submitted earlier on, but we want to make sure that what's in place is what meets our spec. So that was sent out a couple of weeks ago, so that should be back any day now. And if we find out that all the soils are right, it's going to be a matter of working diligently to get that grass to grow. Our spec requires 2 growing seasons, so it's not unusual that it doesn't look great now because it was only just planted. But the areas that were not level and sort of ponding, they're addressing that daily to go out there and check when there's a good rainstorm. They're coming back out to see, do we have low spots that need to be shimmed? And if we find out that there is an issue with the soil, they'll have to come out and amend it and, add whatever might be missing if it needs more sand or what is needed. So we're hoping that the mix is right and that they can get the surface nice and level and playable and not pooling water. So it's going to be a bit of a process. Great Falls and Woods will be working on this, next summer even. So it'll be a while yet before that's ready. Are there any questions? Did I answer your questions there?
Yes, Aura.
Thank you. Yeah, so I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
So one, and I'm noticing the grass is growing and looking better, so that's great, but I hadn't realized, this is helpful to know these issues were happening. So does this mean, though, that like for this, fall season, the kids aren't going to be able to use that area because it's not yet ready for,
Yeah, they really shouldn't go on that area that's been reseeded for 2 growing seasons. We used to say 3 even. There is a small area in the back that's undisturbed that we're trying to sort of flag off the areas where they shouldn't be walking because that'll just delay the grass growth and even further. They will have access to that back area, but this is going to take a bit of time. It's always a topic of frustration because it just takes a while for that grass to grow in. It always looks better the next growing season. So Great Falls is on the hook until it's it meets Harriman's spec and our civil engineer passes off on it. So we're a long way from that now. So
okay. And this might be a question for Angie too. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to, I haven't got to ask this, but I just had noticed like the tape was up and then I think maybe it wasn't. So I just worry also about people going on it, not even in school time, right? That I don't know that it's protected from people just running, because it is, I guess it won't be used for soccer. It's not going to be used for other community purposes, but I wonder about it, keeping people off of it, I guess. My question.
Yeah, I mean, we told everyone that they couldn't be on that part. And I think everyone's doing a good job adhering to that in terms of the students. I did notice that the caution tape is down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. It is great. It seems to be growing, so that's good news. And if they walk on it, their feet's going to get super muddy. So maybe that's a deterrent, better than probably the caution tape.
Okay.
But no, they're not going to be able to use it for fall sports, but we're hopeful for next year. And to give us a shout out to Great Falls, I mean, Quentin's out there like watering the plants on a weekly basis. So I really I appreciate them so much, and I think we'll have good grasp by September, hopefully.
Great. Well, thank you, because this is all learning experience too. Like, oh, I didn't realize, that's part of the process, that these things take a long time. So I appreciate the explanation. And then one other question I had was just about paving. Which, the start of school year, it looks really great coming in. And then there's this one patch that hasn't been paved in the back. So I'm just curious, is that going to get paved?
That is outside of the scope of paving. We really hope that
there was a reason, but I was like,
we really hope that there would be money available to take care of that. Great Falls really wanted to be able to pave that area. But, we're trying to stretch these dollars as far as we can. And, we've got furniture to buy and so forth. So it'll be up to the district if there's, a funding source for that. But
okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I just was like, sure, there was a reason, because functionally the parts that really were in bad shape are so, for kids coming and going, are so much improved. So I feel like, the bulk of what really needed, but it just was kind of that visually the part missing, right? So, but that totally makes sense to me, that we have to put money where it's most needed. So thanks for clarifying that.
Tony, can we, just as we'll see in a second where we're at with the contingencies, and it likely will be very close on the overall projects, but could we price out what, I haven't been to Presumpscot recently, so I don't have a sense of what that unpaved section looks like or how big it is, but is it possible to price out what it would cost to?
We absolutely can. We haven't yet, just we know our contingency is so low on Presumpscot. It hasn't really come up as a request.
Part of that is because we moved the remaining Presumpscot contingency, most of it, to Longfellow and Reiki. Yeah. And we've always approached these projects as one whole. So if, again, I haven't seen it myself, but just based on Aura's description, we should at least know what the cost would be to finish up that work.
Yeah, I can have Great Falls price it. I'll have our civil department issue a PR on that.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say there's no harm in getting a price from the contractor for some of these, what I'm calling at this point, discretionary ads, because that way, when we look at them and the totality of what the available budget is, then we can have an informed decision or an informed discussion on the implications of what we can do with our remaining money.
That sounds great.
That was exactly my thought as well, Dave.
Yeah. And there are a few, when we look at the contingency, there'll be a few of those that we can talk about.
Yeah. There any other questions? I've got one more item. Can you go back, Emily? I have one more item that I wanted to talk about. Shall I go ahead? Yeah. Okay. We've noticed that there's a drainage issue at the playground where some of the stormwater from rainstorms is washing into the playground and sort of washing away some bark mulch. So we've put a PR together to address that and basically create a place for the water to go and then a place for it to sort of settle and dry out. So we've submitted that to Great Falls and are awaiting pricing. My understanding from Darren is that Woods Excavation has already looked at it, and he's surprised I don't already have the number. So I'll talk to them tomorrow morning and get that, and we can have a discussion about going ahead with that or not. I would imagine we will, because it's a concern there that we want to address. So. And that's all I have. These are some older pictures. I apologize for that. I should have taken pictures when I was looking at the rubber floor last week, but this is sort of the main entry. To the right, you're seeing some just soil, and now that's all planted, with landscape and bark mulch and everything else. So all the pictures of the front look much differently if you're there in person. The two upper right-hand images there are showing the new paving that's gone in. The soil along the sides of that's all been seeded and strawed and is starting to come in as well. So apologize for a little bit older images, but it looks really good in person. I've been there several times. So.
Sorry, are we ready to move on to that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm ready. Yep.
Sure. This is sort of my specialty right now is the dollars, and this is a reasonably current update on available contingency funds for Longfellow. It shows you where we started, the infusions of money from Reiki and Presumpscot, and back in June from the project reserves, giving us, prior to any discussion of change orders, $163,000 in contingency. Change order 17 hasn't been issued yet, but that will be a $15,000 charge against contingency, and there are a few proposed change orders from the contractor that are currently under review, and that number is a little bit out of date. We've got a couple of others since then. One of them is we were looking at the possibility of replacing the gym/cafeteria floor, and that number is a little bit north of $100,000 for the demo and the new flooring material. So that would obviously have a huge impact on contingency. Any changes to windows to increase fresh air ventilation would be a charge against contingency. The revisions to the air handling unit are currently being priced. So once we get that and a couple of others from
I think we lost Dave for a second. Let's just wait.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
I'm back. Okay. No idea where you would have lost me, but I'll just say the contractor is pricing a few additional proposal requests. So once we get that, we'll be able to evaluate available contingency and other funds within the whole budget. And it'll be pretty much the same story for Presumpscot and Reiki as well, but we can jump to those. Does anyone have any questions on Longfellow contingency? Hearing none, moving on. Same story at Reiki. This shows you where we started, the additions and subtractions in moving money from budget to budget to cover contingency expenses. And right now, the available contingency at Reiki is healthy. And we can, once we get the pricing from Hardy Pond for the shoring and concrete repairs at the waffle slab, we'll be able to evaluate all of that against the available funds. Any questions on Reiki before we move on to Presumpscot?
Sarah, please go ahead.
Sarah, yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know this has been an ongoing concern for Charlie, and I want to make sure I understand. This contingency is above and beyond the furniture that's been budgeted. Is that right?
Correct. Separate line items on the budget. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But just to underscore, when we're looking at, I think are you going to show Presumpscot's contingency next? So you'll see that there's barely any money because we've moved that to the other projects. Presumpscot was finished last spring, or largely finished last spring, and so as we're getting down to the wire on these final issues, we need to resolve all of them through the remaining contingencies. So if we're needing to, change up the windows at Presumpscot in those 4 classrooms, for instance, we're going to have to move money from either other line items that are in fact available, or from the other schools' contingency funds. So we are getting close as we get to the end of the project, as it should be.
Yep. Yeah, and also this available contingency for Presumpscot does not reflect the site drainage revisions that are currently being priced. So when we get that number, like I say, we'll be able to look at all the projects together and see where we can find sources for the money. And it'll be payback time for Presumpscot, because a lot of money was moved from the Presumpscot budget to other projects. So,
although
turnabout is fair play.
Just to be fair, the initial bid on Presumpscot was a lot higher than we had anticipated.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I know.
We initially moved quite a lot of money to Presumpscot. And the point is that, we're completing all of these projects with the pot of money we have. And so, seeing them as a collective whole, I think is, how we've gone, we've gone through these, the entire process here, and it is how we will finish them as well.
Yep.
Sarah, your hand is still up, but you're good. We have very sensitive hand raising buttons.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave.
No, I just wasn't paying attention. I forgot to put it down. Sorry.
Any questions on Presumpscot? Moving on.
Dave, do you want to speak to this, or I can?
Yeah, I can wing this a little bit. As of right now, this hasn't changed from last month. What's labeled as available funding is currently the line item in the budget for each of the schools, and the estimated number is Harriman's most recent estimate for each school. And as of today, as of about 4:45 today, this afternoon, the furnishings packages had not yet been released for bid. They are next in the city's queue to release. So there's a process there that will take some time. And once we get those numbers back, then we'll be able, as I keep saying, evaluate those bids within the context of the whole budget for each school. And the hope and expectation is that by bidding all three schools together, there will be a competitive pricing advantage, and we're hopeful that the final bids will come in below the available funding budget, the line item on the budget.
Dave, I know everyone's anxious to get this furniture.
Yep.
Can you give us a sense of, we know that there's been now a month delay on the city side. Once it does go out, what's your expectation of the timeline for when the bids come back and then for actually fulfilling them?
I don't know. I don't know how long the city's bidding time frame is, or what their review process is. Once we finally get the bids, then we can evaluate them pretty quickly. The ordering, fabrication, shipping will take time. The installation would take time. Just pulling this completely out of the air, I wouldn't expect to see any furniture before Christmas break. But once the city releases the package for bidding, then we'll have a better idea what their time frame is, and we'll do anything we can to expedite it.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there questions on this? Okay, I think we can move on.
We're into the next step.
Okay, I can run with this one, and I just am looking at the full list of attendees right now, and we do need to approve minutes actually from our past meetings in May and June of last year. However, we don't have a quorum right now, so I'm going to continue to put those on hold, and we will get to those when we can get to them. So our next joint meeting is on October 19th, and our last item to discuss is the ribbon cuttings. And this says targeting September for Presumpscot, but I think I think now we might be wanting to wait until the flooring is resolved, so we can welcome families and the full community into a fully finished school. That's what I was hearing from staff on my end. But Angie, I think Angie is still on, and I'm sorry I can't see everyone because we have the slides up.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, yeah, I think you can stop sharing. Thank you. Whew, that's better. So Angie, does that ring true for you to wait? Okay. And then on Longfellow and Reiki, I think we'll look to work with Nicole and Charlie to figure out the best timelines for those ribbon cuttings. I know on Longfellow there's still a lot of work site work to be done, and we want to finish that site work before we schedule the ribbon cutting. So looking hopefully to do those, especially Longfellow, to do that before the end of the year, and Reiki, I think TBD of whether we do it before the end of the year or early next year. But the vision for these events is to hold them on the weekends when we can, and to have a really celebratory, event where we're really able to welcome both our families, current and former students, and people from the community to really see how these schools have been transformed and to be a part of celebrating all that we've accomplished. Any thoughts on that, or additional things we should be thinking about as we move towards the ribbon cuttings? Okay, excellent. All right, I want to thank both Steve and Tony as well as Dave for pitch hitting tonight. Thank you so much. With Mark and Lisa not here, appreciate that very much, and great to have you join us. And as I said, our next joint committee meeting is Thursday, October 19th at 6 p.m. So we will see you then. And if there are any urgent updates in the time being, we'll make sure to get them to you. So thank you everyone for being here tonight, and have a great rest of your evening.